My name's Kris Manos, and I'm president of Wilsonart. Wilsonart is the market leader in laminates. We've got a dominant share in North America, and we've got about 2,000 employees here. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. As I went through college, I pretty much had that focus. Like I said, I came from a family of teachers. Professions were the thing, and I just seemed interesting to go to law school. So that was what I was intending to do. So my first job out of college was as a paralegal because I figured I wanted to try it out before I made the commitment and went to law school. And it was really boring. So after 6 months of that, I thought, I need to rethink this, and I need to figure out something else to do with my life. It's interesting. When I was in graduate school, somebody asked me, what did you like to do when you were a kid? It was one of those moments when I was struggling with what am I going to do with my life and what should I do? And when they asked me that question, I realized that when I was a kid, I used to make things. Now girl stuff, granted, but I made candles and I knit sweaters and I made every gift from when I was 5 till I was 18. But my family were all teachers, and I didn't really have a mental model that there were actually jobs where you could make things. So that was the insight that led me to say, gee, maybe going into manufacturing would be something that captured some passion from when I was young. Actually, one of the choices I made once I decided that I wanted to go into manufacturing was that even though I was coming out of business school, that I really needed to start on the shop floor, because if I was going to go into manufacturing and have any credibility, particularly as a woman, I needed to understand how it really worked. So I found a company that was willing to start me on it was a Navistar here in Chicago, and I worked on the diesel engine side of the business, and I became a supervisor on the assembly line. So I was responsible for everything from putting on the cylinder head to timing the engine and trimming out the upper part of the engine. I ended up doing that for about 6 months, and then I went into manufacturing engineering for the assembly area. The guy who was running that came to the head of assembly and said, she's going to be worth a lot more to you if she comes help me design the line instead of just supervising for you. So I spent another couple years helping redesign the processes on the assembly line. I do think one of the skills broadly in business is being able to talk to everybody. So being able to talk to the board of directors or the president of the company, or being able to connect and talk to the people who are actually doing the work of the company, that's a huge benefit. And it's actually, girls tend to be a little better at that sometimes than boys are, right? But just because of the core communication skills. So it's something you can really build on in that context. I think the other thing that's important is understanding that in business you really have to respect everybody's perspective. Everybody in the company has a job to do, and there's a reason they're there. So they've got some value to add to understanding and making the business succeed. So that's, I think, an important lesson. Specifically if you ever get an opportunity to supervise in a manufacturing environment, it is the most powerful management lesson ever, because the way you make decisions and choices, you know real time whether you made a good one or not. As we move up in our careers and we supervise professional white-collar people, you make decisions now, maybe you don't see the results, but when you're on the shop floor, you make a bad decision, all your engines hit the repair floor, or they don't work when they go into the test lab, or you don't make your schedule for the day because the whole line slowed down. So you can really see cause and effect of good, strong leadership to results. Some of that stuff is really common sense and problem solving. So learning to think is a really good thing. But you can come into a manufacturing business in a lot of other ways too. You could come up through a communications channel if you were more of an English or literature major or journalism. You could come up if you were a numbers kind of person by entering in a finance role. So there's a lot of different ways to get into it, I think. I think one thing that happens a lot when you're working in your career broadly is that it's easy to get so absorbed by the job you're doing that you forget to kind of keep in touch with the outside world. And so one skill that I would really recommend is trying to develop the discipline to retain some part of your life for your own professional development. So you can go out and learn, whether it's conferences or networking or just putting yourself in situations. They can be formal classes or building mentoring relationships where you can learn and keep up with your own professional development. There aren't a lot of girls or women in manufacturing. And I do think it's something that, I guess my observation would be that a lot of times we're oriented by our families and both what our families do and the roles that, and gender roles that people within that family go into. So I think opening your mind to manufacturing, I mean, you have to be comfortable being in predominantly male environments for many times during your career. That's just the way it is. When I started as the supervisor on the assembly line, there was one woman toolmaker on third shift and me. um, but that's okay. I mean, I think being open to what you can do, right? To believe that you can. Probably the most powerful force in my life was that my dad always believed I could do anything. So there was never any question if there was something I wanted to do. He encouraged me, he supported me, he pushed me to go ahead and do it. And I think we all have a lot more capability sometimes than what we take advantage of. And so however it comes to you, to have that belief that you really can do it and to give it your all and give it a try. And you never know where it might take you. And if it's not your parents, I mean, we don't all have the best family situations as we're growing up. It can be somebody else. Reaching out to somebody who you connect with and can believe in you. And I would say also, adults really like to help. I mean, there's something about wonderful in that process that as I get old, I appreciate. And I think when I was younger, I used to think maybe I was imposing on someone or that I shouldn't ask for help. But it really, I now have the experience where I love it when somebody asks me for help, and I would do anything I could for them. So go ahead and ask. Through my careers, I think you can have mentors of both genders, and they might be different in different ways or support you in different ways, but I guess I would encourage girls both to reach out for a network of women who can be supportive, but also don't hesitate to look to men for mentorship as well. So I guess my advice would go back to think about who you're marrying, right? Because that's going to inform a lot of your choices as you go along. How much of a how much of a partnership you're able to have with your spouse. But because we both decided it would be a great thing to do, that's made it tremendously easier. How do I define success? At a broader life level, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I've got, a great family, a great husband and great kids, in addition to having, a good job. I mean, a lot of people depend on me in the job, and to me, that's a lot of fun. And then great friends too. So that combination is great. Well, I think balance is important in so many parts of life, and I don't think we ever achieve perfect balance. But I think it's important, even when you're most focused on your career, to remember, the stuff I said earlier about personally, taking time to develop yourself professionally so you can keep moving, and taking the time to have relationships, because in the end, people are most important.